Hello, I'm going to demonstrate the Self-Learn Station software. What I'm doing is I'm running a simulation so we're able to do a recording. Normally this would be put on a 25-inch screen, so some of the pagination may not work correctly. But what I will show you is how we start a transaction. So what we do now is we simply touch the screen to begin. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to scan a patron barcode. In this instance, I've scanned Perfect Patron, and Perfect Patron is a patron for whom we have an email address. And after scanning the card, it goes into a menu-driven flow. As you can see, I have menu options. I can return items. I can view my account, what borrow items I have. Apologies. And the other function we have is we also have the function to be able to add credit to a third-party system. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to borrow some items. So I'm going to go into the borrow item screen. And what I've done is I have just placed 3 items on the RFID pad on the Self-Learn Station. As you can see, it's checked out 2 items correctly, the Ultimate Pocketbook and Jackie Collins Married Lovers. But which big giver stole the chopped liver has an error. And if I press here, what it does, it says this item is on hold for another patron and cannot be borrowed. You may wish to seek library staff. And if a patron tries to take this book out, the alarm will still sound. Because Perfect Patron has both an email receipt and has an email, we give the option of either using an email receipt, you can set the level of time before it times out, or you can exit with a receipt. I'm going to exit with an email receipt. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to use another patron. In this instance, a patron whose name is in my name. And again, I'm going to borrow the same 3 items. The difference between myself and Perfect Patron is I don't have an email address in the system. So when I borrow the items, you can see it only gives me the option to exit with a receipt. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to exit with a receipt. And as you can see here, we have a receipt and we have the books that I have borrowed. It only has checked out the 2 books that it correctly loaned to me. And in this instance over here, you can see that it's got the wrong library name because that's not the name of your library. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do one more transaction to show you how we can also mix an RFID transaction together with items that do not have RFID tags. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to use my patron card again. I'm going to borrow 3 items. I've put them on the pad already. As you can see, it's picked them up. Now I have a 4th item. Okay, I know I've placed 4 items on there. It says, if there are items missing, click over here. So I'm going to click over here. And what happens is it says to you, please scan the barcode of the book. So you simply scan the barcode of the book, and it adds the 4th item, which is Pamper Girl Force. Okay, and again, I'm going to exit with the receipt. Okay, in my simulator over here, I now have 2 receipts, and you can see in this one over here, I have the first 2 books, and then I have the 3rd book, which is Pamper Girl Force. Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch over for a second to our management console to show you how we can change settings. I've already logged in, and what I've done is I've just gone into manage user accounts just to show you if you wanted to create a new user, and you have a choice of either giving somebody dashboard, reporting, or full IT rights. And we also have a 4th level which we keep for ourselves, and I will show you why we keep it to ourselves, because there's certain things that can cause the system to do things you do not expect it to do. So for example, I will just go into the general settings, and you can see here we can set up a database for recording of your transactions. If it's a small library, we will set up SQLite. If it's a large library and you have multiple branches, then we ask for a share on a SQL server. We do not require dedicated SQL server. All we want is a share on a SQL server, as all we do is we write data to it. Then we have a primary tag format, as you can see over here, and a secondary tag format. The reason for a primary format and a secondary format is on our system, you have the ability to convert. You can have multiple secondary tag formats, but by selecting a primary tag format, you're able to convert all items from any of the secondary formats to the primary tag format. The other thing you can do, just some general things over here, is you can set up your email settings, okay? And the other thing I will show you is how we connect to the various ILSs, LMSs. So you're using Virtua, and in the situation of Virtua, we have three different permutations for Virtua because we've come across three different SIP2 implementations, and they all differ from each other. We're able to ensure that your settings are done correctly. For the purpose of this demonstration, we're using Aurora. We have another two things that are important, which is the patron importer and the item importer. And the reason for that is we actually keep a copy of the patron file and the item file in offline mode, which is very important. It's something that is very unique about our system. So in an offline mode, you're still able to function completely, and we're able to still show the titles of the books. And if you have a patron that has been barred by the library, as long as based on the latest patron import that you have done, we're still able to bar that patron from borrowing books. The other things we're able to do is you're able to set, to do things such as set management. So we can set up set management for issues and returns. Set management is when you have multiple parts to a specific set. And that is important if you, for example, have a book with a DVD, to make sure that both items are present when they're checking them in and checking them out. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the self-loan station. And what I'm going to show you is some changes we can make to the self-loan station. So the first thing is, do we have language selection enabled? As you could see, when we checked things out, we had languages. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pop into the languages just to show you what we do have. So for example, here we have, I'm going to go into Hindi. And here is the name of the field. Here is what we have the description in English. And then on the right, you can have your translations into Hindi. Now, if there are any translations that you do not like that we have done, you are able to change them. And if you ever upgrade the software from one version to the next version, your translations will always flow through. The other thing that I want to show you with translations is under the general section. If, for example, you have messages that are coming through from the LMS and you don't like those messages, what you are able to do is you are able to change them. And what I want to show you is that is in the self-loan station, and I will get to that just now. So what I'm going to do first of all is I'm just going to go through, carry on going through the self-loan station parameters, just a few that may be useful to you. So the first thing is display the item columns when you're borrowing items. You have complete and total control of the information you show in the self-loan station. In our self-loan station over here, we show item number, the title, the asset number, the return date. We also show the fee amount. So if you want, in this instance, I'm going to delete that fee amount and I'm going to save that. And I'm going to go back. And you can also configure the receipt payment footer. You can do this by branch. You can display your receipt payments, your receipt account items, your check-in headers, your check-in, your checkouts. You can also include failed items if you want on a receipt. This is all completely configurable by yourselves. And the next thing I'm going to show you is, so this is where you would put your receipt footer if you wanted to do them by branch, your receipt headers and footers. And what we did was when we borrowed the items, we went into a menu-driven flow. Now, with our system, you are able to completely configure the workflows yourself. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go default to loans. So we're going to go, when we scan a patron card, we're going to go straight into the loans menu. But we're still going to have the ability to check in items and to view the account, etc. So I've made those changes, and what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to save them. I'm going to make one final change, and when you check out items, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to separate the successful and unsuccessful items into two separate columns. So I'm going to save this now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to now just restart the self-loan station. So we'll be with you in a second. What we've done is we've got back to the self-loan station. And what I'm going to show you is the change we've made. So what I've done is I just scanned a patron item. I placed the items on the pad. Sorry, I was a bit quick there. I actually had left them on the pad. And it gave me the message that I couldn't borrow this item. And as you can see, we have them in two separate items. And we still have the ability to view our reserved items and view our account. And I can again exit with email receipt because I have an email for Perfect Patron. And I don't have an email, and sorry about that. And I can exit with the receipt as well. So I'm going to exit with the email receipt. It reminds me to take my card, and off I go.